Okay, so we're gonna start the session. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me know once you guys see my screen.
It's
Yes, it
visible.
is visible.
Okay. Okay, so please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna start with the so we're gonna prepare for the solution architect associate certificates. So we have a one foundational certificate and it is a second level of certification in the AWS. We have foundational certificate that is a cloud practitioner, then the solution architect associate. So as part of this course, we will be covering most of the services where we can give the exam for the solution architect associate level certificate. I'll start with this course content here. Go to the next slide. You can see my screen.
Just
Okay,
one
right? Or you
question.
want me to?
So,
Yeah.
sorry, Raj, just a question. I mean, this, are you going to cover both practitioner and AWS architect, or
Yeah, yeah.
only? Mhm.
You think of like we will be covering more depth compared to the uh, cloud practitioner. Okay, so with this exam, we will
Okay,
be covering both the certificates. You can.
both. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, just a second. Okay, so what I'm saying is, so this is a second. We will be covering two certification. You think of Avdut, right? So it will cover the the practitioner certificate is more of about the what service is doing what. Okay, so we will be covering the next level as well. That is the associate level as well. Okay, so in this course, we will be starting with the. So does anyone know what is AWS stands for?
Web services.
The Amazon Web Services, right?
Amazon Web Services.
Right. So, so we will see what is the AWS and the history about the AWS, and we will see how to create the free account. So I heard like most of the people are not aware of the AWS, right? To how to create the account and all. Then the IAM service. So we will jump into the IAM service from the as the IAM is the one of the main service from the AWS, how to manage the AWS accounts and the permissions to the each user level. So we will start from the IAM side. Then the EC2 again the load balancer and the auto scaling groups. These are the important concept from the exam perspective and on the day-to-day activity. Then we'll talk about the Route 53 service. That is the DNS service from the AWS end. So we will see that. Then the again the S3 is important concept from the exam perspective, and we will see this is more in depth from the S3 perspective than the CloudFront service. So there, do not worry about the so many services, but we're gonna cover all of these services as we are moving forward the next sessions. Okay. So this is the high level of the course content. And we will be covering all these services. Do not worry, we will talk about each one of those services going forward. Okay, so yeah, some people have some problem while joining this. Okay, so any questions, anyone so far, or before we moving forward to next?
No, Raj, you can go ahead.
Okay, so we will just okay. So we will talk about the cloud history for the AWS. Okay, so in 2002, the AWS started. They have internally launched a few services. In the 2003, they have infrastructure for one of their core strength. They have make some services in the internal side, and they have used it. But they thought like after that, they thought like these services can be used externally also. That is the public. That's where they have launched the SQS service. That is the first service from the AWS end. They have started with the SQS service. The SQS stands for Simple Queue Service. So that is the first service from the AWS end. So if someone asks what is the first service AWS built is, that is the SQS. SQS. Okay, then the in the 2006 they have relaunched with the along with the SQS. They have relaunched the EC2 and S3 and along with the SQS service. So if you see they have moving forward, they have building more and more services. So each these resources or services they called as an AWS service from the AWS perspective. So they have came up with the S3 and the EC2 with the on the 2006, and that is launched in the US region at the start 2006. But later on they have in the 2007 they have launched these services into the Europe region, and later part of years they have relaunched these services into not only to the these region, they have launched everywhere around the globe. We will see how the AWS infra is built, and how many countries and all. We will see that after few slides. But yeah, from this is where the AWS cloud journey is started. And from after 2007, now it is the AWS services are available in most of the countries including China and other countries as well. And we have a one region in the Mumbai in India, and one recently they're going to launch into the Hyderabad region. And if you see, these are the Dropbox or the Netflix or NASA, these are the main or the users, the customers from the AWS, they use the AWS services currently. Then we will talk about the cloud number facts. So this is where so we have the along with the AWS, we have the few other cloud providers also, right? Like the Azure, Google Cloud.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I joined late. I was having some issue with the Zoom. This is Devyani here.
Hey, Devyani. Yeah, yeah. Just give your intro, Devyani, then we'll start. Anyone else joined?
Yeah, hi. My name is Devyani, and I'm working as PMO, AMPMO, Associate Manager PMO in 3i Infotech Limited. I have around 13.5 years of experience in project management in a work field.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's about me.
Okay, so are you new to the cloud, or do you have any knowledge earlier?
I'm new to the cloud because I have this concept where people are using cloud, you know, recently for projects, but I really need to know what are the technical details on this. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Anyone? I think Moin, you joined.
Yes, sir. Me too as well, sir. I
Okay.
also joined it, sir.
Okay. No need to call me sir. Just
Just
say
like
Raj or Rajkumar. Anything is fine.
yes, sure, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Man. Yeah. Just say
Actually,
intro about yourself.
actually, sir, I am also My name is Moin, sir, and I am working as a Master developer from past 3.1 years, and I am new in the cloud computing, sir. I don't know anything about this. like
Okay.
AWS and other platform Azure.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. So yeah, people are joined. So this is the high level course content we're gonna cover, and we'll talk about each one of these services going forward. And we just talked about the AWS cloud history. In 2002, they have started internally. Then the 2003 they have launched, and in 2004 they came up with the SQS service, where they have launched it to public. Everyone can use it. And in the 2006 they have came up with the, along with the SQS, they have came up with the S3 and EC2 services, and that is in the US region. Later part of time in 2007 they have launched these services in Europe region also. And later now if you consider now in 2024, it is available in most of the countries. All of these AWS can be used in most of the countries. And these are the some customers, the main customers from the AWS, Netflix and NASA, so they use the AWS services perspective. And we were talking about the cloud number facts here, so where AWS stands, right? So not only the service provider, cloud service provider, along with the AWS, we have the Azure, Google Cloud, and a few other clouds also. But where AWS itself stands, right? So we have to consider before learning any new cloud, we have to learn whatever the more popular cloud, right, nowadays. So if you see, consider the AWS with the other clouds, the AWS will be the leading as of today. So AWS is sharing 31% of the share along with the among with the other cloud providers here. The AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Then the Azure following the AWS, the 24%. Then the Google Cloud. So nowadays the Google Cloud is picking more. But yeah, as of today, the AWS will be the leading here. Okay, now we will be jumping into the core concept of the global infrastructure here. So how so before using the AWS, we should know like the how the infrastructure AWS build their infra, right? So we will talk about the global infrastructure, and it is important to understand. So from here we are slowly jumping into the AWS, how AWS services and all. We are slowly jumping into the AWS concepts from here. Okay, so we will talk about the global infrastructure. So what is the global infrastructure, right? So how the AWS, they have the data centers, they how they are managing and all. This is important to understand in the backend, but this is not related to with the services and all, but how the AWS is managing their services, where their data center are located, how they are segregated and all. This is where we are talking about now. So this global infrastructure is again divided into the regions. Again, the regions are divided into the availability zones. Short name of availability zones are AGs, agents, or otherwise. Then the data center, then the edge location. Okay. So what is the cloud infrastructure, right? So why do we go there and build or create our services there? So it is a secure and a reliable cloud platform, and it is offering so many services within the AWS and globally. When we say globally, it is not only the India region or Europe or US region. It is among the all of the countries. You can create your service, and that can be distributed to all other countries with the low latency basically. So whenever you deploy your application, right, that load will be across the globe. That's where we are talking about the cloud infrastructure globally here. So we will jump into this URL and see how these are divided. But we will talk about each one of these, the regions, availability zones, and data centers here. So what is region, right? It is region is nothing but just a logical name, nothing to do with it, do with this one. But yeah, it is just a logical name you can think of. Let's say the India region or the US region. Again, in US we have a few other regions also. One is Northern Virginia, then Oregon region. So those are the so many regions within the US again. But in India, we currently have the Mumbai region, and the Hyderabad region is slowly coming into the picture. But it is not yet available. But yeah, it will be available in they say in 2024, end of the 2024, the Hyderabad region also available. And how to see this in the console, will when we jump into the console we will see it. Okay, so if you think, if what is the region, right? Region is just a geographic area, that's it. the where is the data center and everything, those are will be the within the availability zones, then the data centers. Just a second. Okay, so if anyone asks what is the region, right? It is just a geographical area. And what is this region consist of? It consists of the few availability zones. So it consists of 3 to 6 availability zones actually in the region. So depending on the load, they have what AWS made is they have created the availability zones within the region. It consists of 3 to 6. So minimum is 3, maximum is 6 availability zones within region. So we will talk about what is the availability zone there. Okay, and these availability zones are connected with low latency and high throughput and highly redundant networking. So this internal networking will be done by the AWS end, so we do not need to do anything from our end. The AWS will be take care of that. Okay, and we will see this how the regions are divided into the console, but yeah, we'll just talk about the theory, then we'll jump into the console. Okay, so what is AG, right? AG is an availability zone. So availability zone is consist of one or more discrete data centers. So if you see in this diagram, right? So availability zone here, within this availability zone, we have 2 data centers. Okay, within this availability zone, there are 3 data centers. Here, 2 data centers. So even though these 3 availability zones are belong to the same region, now if you correlate to the region, right? Region just as an so what is the region? Region is nothing but is just a geographical area, nothing to do with the region. So the region is consist of the availability zones here. So depending on the load of the region or the country, they have made the at least 3 availability zones, minimum 3 and maximum is 6. Maximum of 6 availability zones are depending on the load of that region itself. Okay, and what is the availability zone? Availability zone is nothing but the discrete data centers that are within the availability zones. That could be 2 data centers, 3 data centers, 4 data centers, that AWS will not inform us, or they will not ec- uh, they will not tell anyone how many data centers they'll be managing. Depending on the load, the AWS itself will be managing the data centers within the availability zones. Okay, again, these data centers are the within the not at the single location. Okay, so why do we even have the multiple availability zones right here? So this is because of the disaster recovery. Okay, so if you see within the region, there are, let's say, think of like the Mumbai region is there. Okay, and what they'll do is they will create a availability zone. So again, availability zone is nothing but the combination of data centers only, right? So these data center will be kept not, they'll not keep at one place. They will be keeping these data centers within the few, or the 100 kilometers or 500, so at least 5 kilometer 500 kilometers away from each other availability zone. Okay, you think of like if you have a availability zone within the let's say think of like Hyderabad region, then one more will be in Chennai region and one more will be in Pune region. Okay, so why do we keep with these many kilometers distance, right? Because of the disaster recovery. When we say disaster recovery, so if disaster happen, then the data, it can affect the data center also, right? So if it affect at one place, let's say in Hyderabad region, it cannot affect the Chennai region because it is more than 500 kilometers away. So the disaster cannot happen at both the places at a time. So that's where they came up with they'll be keeping their availability zone 500 kilometers away. But we do not know within the availability zone. Let's think of like let's say we say one availability zone in Pune region, right? They will keep one in Pune, maybe one data center in Pune, maybe one data center in Mumbai, so some few kilometers away at least. So they are making sure that if anything happened to the data center, that will not affect the other data center. Okay, so we are saying these availability zones, we are saying within the same region, then the different availability zone, but how these are connected, right? So if you see here from this diagram, they have interlinked, right, with this black lines here. So that is because of the low latency and resilient fiber connectivity that AWS will be taking care of in the backend side. We do not need to take care of anything from this perspective. This will be taken care by our cloud provider, that is the AWS side. So any questions so far, anyone? The regions or availability zones here?
What is the throughput or the bandwidth of the network across the regions or across the availability zones?
So across the regions, we do not have any connectivity. I mean, they will be managing it, but the availability zone, it is very high, actually. Abdul.
Because if you talk in terms of the physical infrastructure or even the virtual infrastructure these days, we usually have bandwidths ranging from around 1 Gbps to 25 Gbps. These fiber channel cards, FC cards, they usually come with these kind of specifications.
Yeah,
So
these are very fast,
okay.
Abdul, but we are not sure about how much speed and all. But that AWS will be taking care of that. But it will be very fast. These are interconnected, so it will be very fast. Okay.
The only reason I'm asking, just because I would like to share, is because when we go to the customers as an architect or as a project managing team, they usually put down their requirements where they would say we need 1 Gbps, 10 Gbps, 25 Gbps. So just wanted to understand what is the bandwidth or what is an equal kind of throughput in terms of AWS. But fine, we will see it later. No problem.
Okay, here I noted that down. Maybe I'll check that. Okay. Yeah, but
okay, Raj, thank you.
Yeah, but these are interlinked, so it will be very fast. But this will not be going via the internet, right? So it will be very fast. It will be going. So that is where the AWS will be building their the private network, you can say. Okay, so this is the AWS backbone network, otherwise are the AWS private network, you can say. So these requests will not be going via through the internet. So this will be going their own the fiber connectivity, right? In this one, so it will be going that connectivity, not via the internet. So it will be very fast. That's why. But how much throughput and bandwidth that I can check for you. Okay.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Thanks, Raj.
Okay. So yeah, if you understand here, right? So the region is nothing but a geographical area. Okay. And each region is consist of the availability zone. So the minimum is 3 and maximum is 6 availability zones within the each region. The 3 to 6 availability zones here actually. And again, these availability zones are consist of the one or more discrete data centers here. And if you see here with the redundant power, networking, and connectivity in an AWS region, and they do not disclose, or AWS do not disclose where the availability zone is. They will say 3 availability zones to use, but they'll not say which location and all, right? So they'll not disclose to us, but they will have, as of now, they have at least 3 availability zones in a region or the 6 availability zone, that depending on their load, they have built their infra in this case, and this passion otherwise. Okay, we will see in the console how to look for the regions and all here. Okay, so now we will talk about so as of now we understand the regions, right? The regions, then the availability zones, then the data centers. So data centers are the these are the discrete data centers within the availability zones. Depending on the 2 or 3 or 5, that depending on their load, they will be managing it. Okay, so we do not need to manage anything from our end, that AWS will be managing from their end. And then the edge location. So what is the edge location, right? So if you have, or the edge locations are nothing but for the main purpose is the caching purpose actually. Okay, so let's say you think of, like, let's say you created a service in the US region. Okay, if India region people will be accessing to the US region, there will be a more latency, right? Obviously it will even though it should go via internet or backbone network, our request will travel to the US network, US region service network, then it will get the response. The latency will be more compared to the if you get the response from the India region. So that's where they have made this edge location concept. So what they have is the same like the data centers, right? So they have the edge locations somewhere in the India. So there will be more edge location than the availability zones or the data centers. Then what happens generally is the how edge location works, right? Let's say, let me go to the notepad maybe. let's say you have a S3 bucket. What is S3? And that we will see going forward. Let's say you have stored a file there.